I sent my parents $650 every week so they could live happily. But on my kid's birthday, they never showed up, and what I found out after broke me in ways I can't describe. Stay with me till the end, because this story still feels unreal to me, and maybe it'll make you think twice about who you sacrifice for. My name is Jalisa Moore. I'm 28 years old, a single mom living in Atlanta with my 5-year-old son, Zion. Life isn't easy, but I've always believed that family is worth every struggle. For the past 3 years, I've been sending my parents $650 every single week. My dad, Cliff, lost his job, and my mom, Verna, told me they were barely making it. I didn't even think twice. I just wanted them to live comfortably. I worked 2 jobs, one as a front desk clerk at a hotel during the day, and another cleaning offices at night. Most days, I barely get 5 hours of sleep. There are nights I skip dinner just to stretch the groceries for Zion. When my friends ask how I do it, I just smile and say, "You do what you have to do for family." Because I truly believe that. Every Sunday, I'd call my parents. They'd tell me about their bills, how hard life was, and how grateful they were for my help. Hearing my mom say, "You're such a blessing, baby," made all the exhaustion worth it. I didn't mind missing out on new clothes or a small vacation. I just wanted them to be okay. Zion would sometimes ask why Grandma and Grandpa never visited, and I'd tell him, "They're just busy, baby." I didn't want him to think less of them. I held on to this picture in my head of my parents sitting together, comfortable, safe, maybe even proud of me for holding things down. That thought kept me going through long, lonely nights. Still, there were moments when doubt crept in, like when I'd call and hear music playing in the background, or when my mom mentioned her new curtains and quickly changed the subject. But I pushed those thoughts away, because believing they were struggling was easier than believing they were lying. Sometimes, when I'd look at Zion sleeping, I'd wonder if I was giving too much of myself away. I was tired, worn out, and constantly on edge. But then I'd get a text from my mom saying, "We love you, baby girl. Don't forget to send it today." And I'd just sigh, transfer the money, and move on. I thought I was buying them peace. I didn't know I was buying their silence. If only I had known what that money was really paying for. Zion's 6th birthday was supposed to be special. I didn't have much, but I had saved every extra dollar for weeks to make the day perfect. The backyard was small, but I turned it into a little wonderland, blue and yellow balloons, a tiny table covered with snacks, and a homemade cake with his favorite cartoon characters drawn in frosting. He kept running around with that wide smile that made every sleepless night worth it. My parents had promised they'd drive up early from Alabama. We wouldn't miss it for the world, my mom had said on the phone, her voice warm and sure. I believed her because I always did. They were supposed to bring Zion's favorite toy car, the one my dad used to fix up for him when we visited. Zion was so excited. He kept asking every 10 minutes, "Mommy, are Grandma and Grandpa close?" At first, I laughed it off, checking my phone every few minutes, waiting for a call or a text that said, "We're on the way." By noon, nothing. By 3, still no word. I started making excuses out loud, maybe more for myself than for Zion. Maybe they got stuck in traffic, baby. You know how long that drive is. By 6, the sun was setting. The balloons had started to sag. The cake sat untouched, candles still waiting. Zion stopped asking about them and just played quietly with his friends. But I could see it, the disappointment in his little eyes every time he looked toward the gate. When everyone left, the yard felt too quiet. I cleaned up in silence, telling myself not to cry. I didn't want Zion to see me broken. He walked up to me and asked softly, "Mommy, do Grandma and Grandpa not like me anymore?" My heart cracked in half. I knelt down, kissed his forehead, and whispered, "Of course they do, baby. They just couldn't make it this time." But inside, I wasn't sure anymore. After putting him to bed, I sat on the couch with my phone in my hand, staring at their contact names. I called once. No answer. I called again. Straight to voicemail. My stomach twisted with anger and confusion. How could they ignore me on their grandson's birthday, after everything I'd done for them? I scrolled through our old messages. Every one of them was about money. Not one asked how I was doing. Not one asked how Zion was. Just reminders of what they needed next. It was almost midnight when I blew out the candles myself, sitting alone in the kitchen. The wax dripped down the sides, the flame flickered, and I finally let the tears fall. That night, I realized something painful. This wasn't the first time they had let me down. It was just the first time I couldn't pretend it didn't hurt. The next morning, I woke up with that heavy feeling still sitting in my chest. Zion was eating cereal quietly, and I could tell he was still thinking about last night. I tried to smile and act normal, but every time my phone buzzed, I felt a wave of anger rise. Around 10, it finally rang, Mom flashing across the screen. I took a deep breath before answering. "Hey, Mama." Her voice came through calm, almost too calm. "Hey, baby. Sorry we didn't make it yesterday. We got a little busy, you know how it is." "Busy?" That's all she had to say? I gripped the phone tighter. "You got busy?" "It was Zion's birthday, Mama. You promised him." She sighed like I was overreacting. "Don't start now, Jalisa. Things come up. We'll make it up to him another time." Her tone was so casual it made my stomach twist. I wanted her to sound sorry, or at least disappointed in herself, but there was nothing. Just indifference. I swallowed my words because arguing wouldn't change anything. "Okay," I said quietly, even though it wasn't okay. When we hung up, I just sat there staring at the wall. Something about that call didn't sit right with me. She sounded too relaxed, too unbothered. If they were really struggling like they always claimed, wouldn't they be grateful I was helping them? Wouldn't they sound a little more humble? Later that week at work, I was sitting with my coworker, Imani, during lunch. She's one of those people who reads you like a book. "Girl, you look stressed," she said, chewing her sandwich. I told her a little, how my parents had missed Zion's birthday, how I'd been sending them $650 every week, how they always seemed to need more. I wasn't even looking for advice. I just needed to vent. But Imani put her sandwich down and looked straight at me. "Wait, you're sending them how much?" $650. "Every week," I said, feeling suddenly embarrassed. Her eyes widened. "Jalisa, that's almost $3,000 a month. Girl, if they ain't struggling, you're just paying for their peace while they living good." I froze. Those words hit harder than I expected. Paying for their peace. I laughed it off, but deep down, something shifted. I couldn't stop replaying her words. All day at work, I found myself thinking, what if she was right? What if they weren't struggling at all? I remembered little things my mom had said over the months, small slips about new curtains, or upgrading the TV. Back then, I brushed it off. Now, it felt like puzzle pieces fitting together. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. I had sacrificed so much, thinking I was helping them survive. But what if all this time, I'd just been helping them live better while I struggled to breathe? It was a Friday evening when I made the decision. I couldn't stop thinking about what Imani said, and that uneasy feeling had been growing stronger every day. I told myself it was just to check in, to make sure my parents were okay. But deep down, I knew it was more than that. I needed to see for myself. So I packed a small bag for me and Zion, put him in his car seat, and started the 4-hour drive to Alabama without telling them a word. The road was quiet, giving me too much time to think. I remembered all the nights I'd stayed up working late, all the times I'd sent money with a tired smile, believing I was doing the right thing. By the time I pulled into their neighborhood the next morning, my stomach was in knots. But nothing could have prepared me for what I saw when I reached their house. I almost drove past it at first because it didn't look the same. The faded, cracked paint I remembered was gone, replaced with a fresh cream color. The front porch was new, the yard trimmed, and right there in the driveway was a shiny silver SUV that definitely wasn't there before. I parked across the street and just stared for a minute, trying to make sense of it. Zion's little voice broke the silence. "Mommy, Grandma got a new car?" I forced a smile. "Looks like it, baby." When I knocked on the door, my mom opened it, her face flashing from surprise to nervousness in seconds. "Jalisa. Oh, we didn't know you were coming." Her voice was tight, her hand still gripping the doorknob. "Yeah," I said slowly, looking around. "I wanted to surprise you." Inside, everything looked brand new. The old brown couch was gone. In its place was a sleek leather set. A massive flat-screen TV hung on the wall. Expensive-looking rugs covered the floor, and on the counter sat a designer handbag I knew cost more than my rent. Zion ran in excitedly, unaware of the tension. "Grandma, look at your house," he said, spinning around. My dad came out from the hallway, his smile fading the second he saw me. "Didn't expect you this weekend," he muttered. I tried to keep my voice steady. "Yeah, I can tell. Everything looks new." My mom gave a quick laugh. "Oh, just little upgrades here and there. You know, we've been saving." Saving. The word echoed in my mind. Saving with what? The money I sent every week so they could survive? I looked around one last time, my throat tight. Every corner of that house was shining with the truth I didn't want to see. My $650 a week wasn't helping them live. It was helping them live better than me. I smiled politely, gathered Zion, and said, "We won't stay long." But inside, something broke. I realized that love, no matter how deep, can still be used as currency by the wrong people. My mother's smile didn't reach her eyes. The second I stepped inside, she rushed over, wrapping her arms around me like nothing was wrong. "Oh, my baby girl. What a surprise," she said too cheerfully. Her voice was a little too high, her grip a little too tight. I could feel her body trembling slightly, like she was caught off guard. I pulled back and looked around the living room again. Every corner gleamed. A new chandelier hung from the ceiling, and the air smelled faintly of fresh paint and lavender candles. My dad, Cliff, came out of the kitchen, wiping his hands on a towel, his eyes darting between me and Mom. He gave a short nod, trying to act normal. "Didn't expect you, Jalisa. You could have called." "Yeah," I said quietly. "I wanted to surprise you." I sat down on the new couch, my hands folded in my lap. Zion played with a small toy car on the floor, completely unaware of the storm building inside me. "So," I began slowly, "everything looks really nice. The new car outside, the furniture. I'm happy for you both." My mother laughed softly, sitting across from me. "Oh, we've been doing a little fixing up here and there. Nothing too fancy." "Nothing too fancy?" I repeated, raising an eyebrow. "Mom, that's a brand new SUV in the driveway. And this place looks like it came out of a magazine." She shifted in her seat, her smile faltering. My dad looked down at the floor. The silence stretched until I finally asked, "Where did all the money go, Mom?" "The $650 every week. I thought you said you needed it to help with bills." Her face hardened for a second before she forced another smile. "Jalisa, why are you asking me that? You know how expensive life is these days." "Yeah, I do," I said sharply. "Because I'm living it. I'm working 2 jobs just to make sure you both are okay. I skipped meals. I missed time with my son. And this," I gestured around the room, "this doesn't look like struggle to me." My father opened his mouth to speak, but my mother cut him off. Her voice rose, defensive and cold. "You think comfort comes cheap, baby? We earned it raising you. You owe us that much." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The words hit like a punch to the chest. "You earned it," I whispered. "By lying to me? By making me feel guilty every week." Her expression didn't change. That's when I knew there was no point arguing. The people I thought I was saving were just using me. I stood up, picked up Zion, and walked to the door. My father's voice trembled behind me. "Jalisa." But I didn't turn around. I just said quietly, "I've sent my last dollar." The door closed behind me, and for the first time in years, I felt both empty and free. The calls started 2 days after I left their house. At first, I ignored them. I didn't have the strength to hear my mother's voice. But she was relentless. By the 5th missed call, I finally picked up. "Jalisa," she began, her tone dripping with disappointment. "I can't believe the way you spoke to us. After everything we did for you, this is how you repay us." I took a deep breath. "Mama, I didn't say anything wrong. I just asked where the money went." "You think money grows on trees?" she snapped. "You wouldn't have anything if it wasn't for us. We raised you. We struggled for you. You owe us that respect." There it was again, that word, "oh." It burned every time she said it. I wanted to shout that love isn't debt, but I knew it wouldn't matter. My father stayed silent in the background, just like always. I could hear the faint creak of his chair, but he never spoke up. Over the next few weeks, the pattern continued. Every time my phone rang, my chest tightened. My mother would switch between guilt and anger. One day crying about how ungrateful I'd become, the next accusing me of abandoning them. Sometimes she'd throw in, "Don't forget, we gave you life, Jalisa." As if that gave her permission to drain mine. My dad called once, just once. His voice was quiet, tired. "You know how your mama gets," he said softly. "Just try to keep the peace." I wanted to ask him why he never stood up for me, but I didn't. What was the point? Peace wasn't what they wanted. They wanted control. That's when I started writing things down. Every call, every text, every manipulation. I recorded it in a little notebook I kept beside my bed. I even wrote down the exact words my mother used. "You wouldn't have anything if it wasn't for us. Don't you dare act like you're better. You can't turn your back on family." It became a strange kind of therapy. Seeing it on paper made it real. It showed me what I had refused to see for years. That our entire relationship revolved around money. When I sent it, they were loving and kind. When I didn't, I was selfish and ungrateful. After a few weeks, I flipped through my notes and realized something chilling. They only called when the week's payment would have been due. Every time, like clockwork. That night, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my phone as it buzzed again with my mother's name. Zion was coloring beside me, humming softly to himself. I looked at his innocent little face and thought, this cycle ends with me. I turned my phone over, silencing it, and for the first time, I didn't feel guilty. I just felt tired, but free in a way I hadn't known before. It was a rainy Thursday morning when I found the letter in my mailbox. It looked official, thick paper, bold lettering, my name printed neatly across the front. At first, I thought it was another bill. But when I opened it, my stomach dropped. It was from a collections agency, saying I owed over $12,000 on a loan I never took. My name, my social security number, my address from years ago. I felt the room tilt for a moment. I read the letter 3 times, hoping I'd missed something, that it was some mistake. But the dates didn't lie. The loan had been taken out 3 years earlier, right around the time my dad lost his job and my mom had called me crying about bills. My hands started shaking. My parents. They had done this. I sat on the couch for what felt like hours, staring at that paper. Memories flashed through my mind. My mother's voice asking for help, my father's silence, their sudden comfort, the shiny new car. It all made sense now. They hadn't just taken my money. They'd taken my name. That night, after putting Zion to bed, I opened my laptop and started researching. The more I read, the angrier I became. What they did wasn't just betrayal, it was a crime. I could have ignored the emotional damage, but not this. They had ruined my credit, my reputation, my peace. That was the final straw. The next morning, I made an appointment with a lawyer. His name was Marcus Ellery, a calm, patient man who listened without interrupting as I told him everything. When I showed him the letter, he frowned. "They took out a loan using your information?" he asked. I nodded, my voice trembling. "Without telling me. They've been using me for years." He leaned forward. "You have every right to take action. This is identity theft, plain and simple. We'll report it, dispute the debt, and lock down your credit. They won't be able to touch a thing in your name again." Hearing those words was like breathing again after being underwater. For the first time in a long while, I felt in control. Marcus helped me file the reports, freeze my credit, and start the legal process to clear my name. I signed papers with steady hands, though my heart ached the whole time. I didn't call my parents. Not yet. They didn't deserve that warning. Let them find out the hard way, the same way I had found out about the loan. I wanted them to feel that cold shock, that confusion, that helplessness. When I got home, Zion ran into my arms, smiling, his small hands wrapping around my neck. I held him tight and whispered, "It's over now, baby." Because for the first time, I wasn't paying for their peace anymore. I was fighting for mine. The sun was bright that Saturday morning, pouring golden light across the little backyard Jalisa had decorated herself. Balloons in blue and gold swayed gently from the fence. "A happy 6th birthday, Zion." Banner stretched proudly across the patio. The smell of cupcakes and barbecue filled the air as Zion ran around with his friends, laughing in that wild, free way that only children could. It had been a full year since everything fell apart, since the letter, the lawyer, and the silence that followed. Jalisa hadn't heard from her parents since the legal case started. Not a text, not a visit. Just absence. But she didn't miss the chaos anymore. Peace had its own sweetness. Her friend Naomi helped pour juice into plastic cups while music played low from a Bluetooth speaker. "You really did this all on your own," Naomi said, smiling. Jalisa shrugged, but her smile was genuine. Zion deserves joy that isn't borrowed or guilt-wrapped. Just joy. The sound of children's laughter echoed again, and Jalisa felt something inside her finally loosen. She had thought this day would feel lonely without her parents. No mother fussing over decorations, no father grilling in the corner. But instead, it felt peaceful. Simple. Hers. Halfway through cutting the cake, her phone buzzed on the table. Unknown number. But she knew that tone in her bones before she even answered. She stepped aside and pressed the phone to her ear. "Jalisa." Verna's voice exploded through the speaker, sharp and panicked. "What have you done?" "The bank froze our accounts. They said it's because of some investigation with your name on it. You ungrateful child. Do you have any idea what you've done to us?" Jalisa stood still, eyes fixed on Zion as he smeared icing across his friend's face. She let her mother rant, words pouring out like venom. "We raised you. We took care of you. And this is how you repay us? You've become so cold, Jalisa, so cold-hearted. She finally spoke, her voice calm, almost steady. Cold hearts don't send $650 a week for years, Mama. They just stop after getting burned. The other end went silent for a second. Then Verna hissed, "You'll regret this. You think you're better than your family now? You're nothing without us." Jalisa let out a soft breath. Maybe, but at least I'm free. She hung up before her mother could say another word. She placed the phone face down on the table, steady hands, steady heart. No shaking this time. No tears. "Mommy, come take a picture." Zion shouted from the yard, icing all over his face. Jalisa smiled, wiping her hands and walking over. She knelt beside him, the camera flashing as laughter filled the air again. This time there was no shadow behind the celebration, no guilt, no control, no lies. Just a mother, her son, and a peace she had finally earned. There was a soft knock at the door, the kind that made Jalisa's stomach twist before she even looked through the peephole. It was early Sunday morning, quiet, the air heavy with the smell of the pancakes she'd just made for Zion. She peered through the peephole and froze. Verna and Cliff. Standing there. No call, no warning, just uninvited ghosts from a life she had already buried. She opened the door halfway, her voice steady. "What are you doing here?" Verna's tone was sharp, cutting right through the calm of the morning. "We came to get what's ours. You think you can just ruin our lives and walk away? We're your parents, Jalisa. You owe us." Jalisa blinked, her hand tightening on the doorknob. "Owe you," she repeated softly. "For what exactly?" "For everything." Verna snapped. "You froze our accounts. The bank said you did something to the paperwork. We can't even access our money. You've turned against your own blood." Behind her, Zion peeked out from behind Jalisa's leg, clutching his stuffed dinosaur. His sleepy eyes met his grandfather's, and for a moment, something in Cliff's face cracked. Regret flickered there, small but real. "Verna," he started quietly. "Maybe we should." "No," Verna interrupted. "She needs to hear this. After everything we sacrificed, she treats us like enemies." Her voice rose higher with every word, shrill, desperate. "We raised you, girl. We made you who you are. Without us, you'd be nothing. Now give us back what's ours." Jalisa took a slow breath, every muscle in her body trembling under her calm exterior. "Mom," she said softly, "I sent you money every week for years. You didn't need it, you wanted control. You lied to me, used me, and when I stopped letting you, suddenly I'm the villain." Verna's lips curled. "You're ungrateful. That's what you are. Just like all these new age kids. Think you can disrespect your elders." Cliff finally stepped forward, his eyes never leaving Jalisa's. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice low. "We shouldn't have come like this." "We." Verna spun toward him. "Don't you dare apologize. She owes us." Jalisa raised a hand, silencing them both. Her voice came out steady, but every word carried the weight of years of swallowed pain. "You taught me how to love people who don't deserve it," she said quietly. "I'm unlearning that now." The hallway went still. Verna stared at her, eyes blazing, but Jalisa didn't flinch. She reached for the door slowly, her gaze fixed on them one last time. Cliff looked away, shame pulling at his shoulders. "Goodbye, Mama. Goodbye, Daddy." The door clicked shut with finality. The sound echoed through the apartment like a deep, clean breath. Jalisa leaned against it for a moment, letting the silence settle around her like armor. Zion tugged her hand softly. "Mommy, are you okay?" She knelt, kissed his forehead, and smiled faintly. "Yeah, baby," she whispered. "We're okay now." The sun was just starting to rise when Jalisa locked her apartment door and took Zion's little hand in hers. The cool morning breeze brushed against their faces as they walked toward the school. The air smelled like new beginnings, fresh coffee from the corner cafe, the faint sweetness of rain that had fallen the night before. For the first time in years, Jalisa's steps felt light. Zion swung her hand playfully. "Mommy, are Grandma and Grandpa gonna come to my next birthday?" he asked, his voice innocent and curious. Jalisa smiled softly, the kind of smile that carried both sadness and strength. "Maybe not, baby," she said gently. "But we'll have everyone who loves us for real, okay?" He nodded, content with her answer, skipping ahead a little as they crossed the street. Life had changed so much in the last few months. After the chaos, the tears, and the silence that followed her parents' visit, Jalisa had finally started therapy. At first, it was hard, talking about the guilt, the manipulation, the years she spent believing that love meant sacrifice. But slowly, She began to understand that love wasn't measured by money or obedience. It was measured by presence, honesty, and peace. She'd fixed her credit, thanks to Marcus, the lawyer who guided her through every form and letter. Her savings account was growing again, small but steady. Every week, instead of sending money to her parents, she deposited a little into Zion's education fund. It wasn't just financial healing, it was emotional too. Every dollar she saved was a brick in the wall she was building between her past pain and her new life. Sometimes she still thought about her parents. She wondered if they ever realized what they'd done, or if they still blamed her. But she had stopped chasing closure. Some apologies never came, and that was okay. She didn't need them to heal anymore. As they reached the school gate, Zion turned and threw his little arms around her waist. "Love you, Mommy," he said, muffled against her coat. She hugged him tightly, breathing in the warmth of the moment. "I love you more, Zion. Always." He ran off to join his friends, laughing, his backpack bouncing behind him. Jaleesa stood there for a moment, watching him disappear into the schoolyard, a quiet smile resting on her face. She whispered to herself, "I used to think sending money was love. But love doesn't keep score, it shows up. On birthdays. On bad days. On time." The words lingered in the air, gentle and freeing. She took a deep breath, the kind that felt like release, and turned toward home. Her heart was steady, her spirit calm. She didn't look back. There was nothing left to fix, no guilt left to carry. Just peace, the kind she'd worked for, paid for, and finally earned. Do you think Jaleesa made the right choice by cutting her parents off, or should she have given them another chance? I'd really love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoy stories like this, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new one.